this fourth episode on Hermetic thought, we will be continuing where we left off in episode 3, the presentation of the essay Some Light on the Path, the commentary by Yogi Ramacharaka on Mabel Collins Light on the Path. Today, we will delve deeper into the 4 precepts from Mabel Collins, which are 1. Kill out ambition. 2. Kill out desire of life. 3. Kill out desire of comfort. 4. Work as those work who are ambitious. Respect life as those who desire it. Be happy as those are who live for happiness.
Dear unknown friend, this presentation, Some Light on the Path, when thought of in the context of the Holy Cabbala, is helpful to the aspiring student in his or her quest to develop the upper Ruach level of soul. These words serve as helpful aids in the process of what is called Theosis. Theosis describes 3 stages of progress in the great work we are engaged in, that of purification, illumination, and union. It is this stage of purification that we must approach first. In the teachings of the philosophers of the living fire, the stage of purification is related to the sword suit of the minor arcanum of the tarot, the stage of illumination to the chalice suit, and the stage of union to the wand suit. These stages of theosis are also related respectively to 3 of the 4 Kabbalistic universes, or Olamot, known as Olam Yetzirah, Olam Bria, and Olam Aziluth. The majority of human beings at this time have attained the stage of development known as the lower Ruach. This stage of evolution in consciousness, while possessing the capability of reason, imagination, and a greater degree of self-consciousness, it is greatly influenced by the animal soul or instinctual mind, known as the nefesh. Hence, it can succumb to the illusion of materialism and the lower desires very easily. The higher aspect of this level of soul, known as the upper Ruach, is in contrast sensitive to the emanations from the neshama, or spiritual mind. In the Kybalion, a similar concept of stages of development is taught as the plane of human mind in its 7 subdivisions comprises those manifestations of life and mentality which are common to man in his various grades, degrees, and divisions. In this connection, we wish to point out the fact that the average man of today occupies the 4th subdivision of the plane of human mind, and only the most intelligent have crossed the borders of the 5th subdivision. It has taken the race millions of years to reach this stage, and it will take many more years for the race to move on to the 6th and 7th subdivisions and beyond. With this in mind, let us continue with the essay, Some Light on the Path. 1. Kill out ambition. 2. Kill out desire of life. 3. Kill out desire of comfort. 4. Work as those work who are ambitious. Respect life as those who desire it. Be happy as those are who live for happiness. Much of the occult truth is written in the form of paradox, showing both sides of the shield. This is in accordance with nature's plan. All statements of truth are but partial statements. There are 2 good sides to every argument. Any bit of truth is but a half-truth. Hunt diligently enough and you will find the opposite half. Everything is and it isn't. Any full statement of truth must of necessity be paradoxical. This is because our finite point of view enables us to see but one side of a subject at a time. From the point of view of the infinite, all sides are seen at the same time, all points of a globe being visible to the infinite seer, who is also able to see through the globe as well as around it. The above-mentioned 4 precepts are illustrations of this law of paradox. They are generally dismissed as non-understandable by the average person who reads them. And yet they are quite reasonable and absolutely true. Let us consider them. The key to the understanding of these and all truths lies in the ability to distinguish between the relative or lower point of view and the absolute or higher one. Remember this well, for it will help you to see into many a dark corner, to make easy many a hard saying. Let us apply the test to these 4 precepts. We are told to kill out ambition. The average man recoils from this statement and cries out that such a course would render man a spiritless and worthless creature, for ambition seems to be at the bottom of all of man's accomplishments. Then, as he throws down the book, he sees, in the 4th precept, work as those who are ambitious. And unless he sees with the eyes of the spiritual mind, he becomes more confused than ever. But the 2 things are possible, yes, are absolutely feasible as well as proper. The ambition alluded to is that emotion which urges a man to attain from vainglorious, selfish motives, and which impels him to crush all in his path, and to drive to the wall all with whom he comes in contact. Such ambition is but the counterfeit of real ambition, and is as abnormal as is the morbid appetites which counterfeit and assume the guise of hunger and thirst, the ridiculous customs of decorating the persons with barbarous ornamentations, which counterfeits the natural instinct of putting on some slight covering as protection from the weather, the absurd custom of burdening oneself and others with the maintenance of palatial mansions, which counterfeits man's natural desire for a home spot and shelter, the licentious and erotic practices of many men and women, which are but counterfeits of the natural sexual instincts of normal man and woman, the object of which is primarily the preservation of the race. The ambitious man becomes insane for success, because the instinct has become perverted and abnormal. He imagines that the things for which he is striving will bring him happiness, but he is disappointed. They turn to ashes like Dead Sea fruit, because they are not the source of permanent happiness. He ties himself to the things he creates and becomes their slave rather than their master. He regards money not as a means of securing necessities and nourishment, mental and physical, for himself and others, but as a thing valuable of itself. He has the spirit of the miser. Or he may seek power for selfish reasons, to gratify his vanity, to show the world that he is mightier than his fellow men, to stand above the crowd. All poor, petty, childish ambitions, unworthy of a real man, and which must be outgrown before the man may progress. But perhaps the very lessons he is receiving are just the ones needed for his awakening. In short, the man of abnormal ambition works for things for the sake of selfish reward, and is inevitably disappointed, for he is pinning his hopes on things which fail him in the hour of need, is leaning on a broken reed. Now let us look upon the other side of the shield. The 4th precept contains these words: work as those work who are ambitious. There it is. One who works this way may appear to the world as the typical ambitious man, but the resemblance is merely outward. The ambitious man is the abnormal thing. The man who works for work's sake, in obedience to the desire to work, the craving to create, because he gives full expression to the creative part of his nature, is the real thing, and the latter is able to do better work, more lasting work, than the first mentioned man. And then besides, he gains happiness from his work. He feels the joy which comes from doing. He lets the creative impulse of the all-life flow through him, and he does great things. He accomplishes, and is happy in his work and through his work, and so long as he keeps true to his ideals, he will be safe and secure in that joy, and will be doing well his share in the world's work. But as he mounts the ladder of success, he is subjected to terrible temptations, and often allows the abnormal ambition to take possession of him, the result being that in his next incarnation he will have to learn his lesson all over again, and again until he has mastered it. Every man has his work in the world to do, and he should do it the best he knows how, should do it cheerfully, should do it intelligently, and he should have full expression of that instinct which impels him to do things right, better than they have been done before, not that he may triumph over others, but because the world needs things done better. True occultism does not teach that man should sit around doing nothing but meditating, with his gaze fastened upon his umbilicus, as is the custom with some of the ignorant Hindu fakirs and devotees, who ape the terms and language of the yogi teachers and prostitute their teachings. On the contrary, it teaches that it is man's duty and glorious privilege to participate in the world's work, and that he who is able to do something a little better than it has ever been done before is blessed and a benefactor to the race. It recognizes the divine urge to create, which is found in all men and women, and believes in giving it the fullest expression. It teaches that no life is fully rounded out and complete unless some useful work is a part of it. It believes that intelligent work helps toward spiritual unfoldment and is in fact necessary to it. It does not teach the beauty of unintelligent drudgery, for there is no beauty in such work, but it teaches that in the humblest task may be found interest to the one who looks for it, and that such a one always finds a better way of doing the thing and thus adds something to the world's store of knowledge. It teaches the real ambition, that love of work for work's sake, rather than that work which is performed for the world's counterfeit reward. Therefore, when the precept says, "Kill out ambition, work as those work who are ambitious," you will understand it. This life is possible to those who understand Karma Yoga, one of the great branches of the Yogi philosophy, upon which it may be our privilege to write at some future time. Read over these words until you fully grasp their meaning, until you feel them as well as see them. The gist of these teachings upon the subject of ambition may be summed up by saying, kill out the relative ambition, which causes you to tie yourself to the objects and rewards of your work, and which yields nothing but disappointment and repressed growth. But develop and express fully the absolute ambition which causes you to work for work's sake, for the joy which comes to the worker, from the desire to express the divine instinct to create, and which causes you to do the thing you have to do, the best you know how, better than it has ever been done, if possible, and which enables you to work in harmony and unison with the divine work which is constantly going on, instead of in harmony and discord. Let the divine energy work through you and express itself fully in your work. Open yourself to it, and you will taste of the joy which comes from work of this kind. This is the true ambition. The other is but a miserable counterfeit, which retards the growth of the soul. Kill out desire of life, says the second precept, but the fourth precept answers back, respect life as those who desire it. This is another truth expressed in paradox. One must eradicate from the mind the idea that physical life is everything. Such an idea prevents one from recognizing the fuller life of the soul and makes this particular life in the body the whole thing, instead of merely a grain of sand on the shores of the everlasting sea. One must grow to feel that he will always be alive, whether he is in the body or out of it, and that this particular physical life is merely a thing to be used by the real self, which cannot die. Therefore, kill out that desire of life which causes you to fear death, and which makes you attach undue importance to the mere bodily existence, to the impairment of the broader life and consciousness. Pluck from your mind that idea that when the body dies, you die, for you live on, as much alive as you are this moment, possibly still more alive. See physical life for what it is and be not deceived. Cease to look upon death with horror, whether it may come to you or to some loved one. Death is just as natural as life in this stage of development, and as much to be happy about. It is hard to get rid of the old horror of physical dissolution, and one has many hard battles before he is able to cast off the worn-out delusion which has clung to the race in spite of its constantly sounded belief in a future life. The churches teach of the life beyond, to which all the faithful should look forward to, but the same faithful shiver and shudder at the thought of death, and clothe themselves in black when a friend dies, instead of strewing flowers around and rejoicing that the friend is in a better land. To use the cant phrase, which is so glibly used on such occasions, but which comforteth not. One must grow into a positive feeling or consciousness of life everlasting before he is able to cast off this old fear, and no creed or expressed belief will serve the purpose until this state of consciousness is reached. To the one who feels in his consciousness this fact of the survival of individuality and the continuance of life beyond the grave, death loses its terror and the grave its horror, and the desire of life, relative, is indeed killed out, because the knowledge of life, absolute, has taken its place. But we must not forget the reverse side of the shield. Read again the 4th precept. Respect life as those who desire it. This does not mean alone the life of others, but has reference to your own physical life as well. For in your letting go of the old idea of the relative importance of the life in the body, you must avoid going to the other extreme of neglect of the physical body. The body is yours, in pursuance of the divine plan, and is in fact the temple of the Spirit. If it were not good for you to have a body, rest assured you would not have it. It is needed by you in this stage of development, and you would be unable to do your work of spiritual unfoldment without it. Therefore, do not be led into the folly of despising the body or physical life as a thing unworthy of you. They are most worthy of you at this stage, and you may make great things possible through them. To despise them is like refusing to use the ladder which will enable you to reach the heights. You should, indeed, respect life as those who desire it, and you should respect the body, as do those who think that the body is the self. The body should be recognized as the instrument of the soul and spirit, and should be kept as clean, healthy, and strong as may be, and every means should be used to prolong the life in the body which has been given you. It should be respected and well used. Do not sit and pine over your confinement in this life. You will never have another chance to live out just the experiences you are getting now. Make the best of it. Your life is a glorious thing, and you should live always in the now stage, extracting to the full the joy which should come with each moment of life to the advanced man. Life, life, more life, has cried out some writer, and he was right. Live out each moment of your life in a normal, healthy, clean way, always knowing it for what it is, and worrying not about the past or future. You are in eternity now as much as you ever will be, so why not make the most of it? It is always now in life, and the supply of nows never fails. If you ask us for a summing up of this idea of this non-desiring of life and its opposite side of respecting it, as if you really did desire it, we will say, the desire referred to is the relative desire, which springs from the mistaken idea that physical life is the only life. The absolute desire of life arises from the knowledge of what the whole life of man is, and what this brief physical life is. Therefore, while the advanced man does not desire it in the old way, he does not despise it, and really desires it because it forms a part of his whole life, and he does not wish to miss or part with any part of that which the divine plan has decreed shall be his. The advanced man neither fears death nor seeks it. He fears neither death nor life. He desires neither, relatively, and yet he desires both from the absolute sense. Such a man or woman is invincible. Neither life nor death have any terrors for such a one. When this consciousness is once reached, the person is filled with such power that its radiance is felt by the world in which he moves. Remember these words: fear neither death nor life, neither fear death nor seek it. When you have attained this stage, then indeed will you know what life is, what death is, for both are manifestations of life. The 3rd precept tells us to kill out desire of comfort, but the 4th adds, be happy as those are who live for happiness. This teaching is also paradoxical, and follows the same line as the ones just spoken of. Its apparent contradiction arises from the 2 viewpoints, i.e., the relative and the absolute. Apply this solvent to all apparently contradictory occult teaching, and you will be able to separate each part so that you may carefully examine it. Let us apply it to this case. Kill out desire of comfort. At first, this would seem to advocate extreme asceticism, but this is not the real meaning. Much that is called asceticism is really a running away from things which we may think are too pleasant. There seems to be an idea in the minds of many people of all shades of religious belief. that because a thing produces pleasure, it must necessarily be bad. Some writer has made one of his characters say, "It is so sad. It seems as if all the pleasant things in life are wicked." There seems to be a current belief that God takes pleasure in seeing people unhappy and doing unpleasant things, and accordingly, many so-called religious people have frowned upon the normal pleasures of life, and have acted as if a smile was offensive to deity. This is all a mistake. All normal pleasures are given to man to use, but none of them must be allowed to use man. Man must always be the master, and not the slave, in his relation to the pleasures of life. In certain forms of occult training, the student is instructed in the cultivation of the will, and some of the exercises prescribed for him consist of the doing of disagreeable and unpleasant things. But this discipline is merely to strengthen the will of the student, and not because there is any special merit in the disagreeable task, or any special virtue in the self-denial attendant upon the doing without certain pleasant, accustomed things. The whole idea consists in the exercising of the will to resist, do without, and to do things, contrary to the usual custom and habits of the individual, which course, if practiced, will invariably result in a strengthening of the will. It operates upon the principle of exercising a muscle by calling it into play. These exercises and practices are good, and we may have occasion to refer to them in some of our lessons. The fast days and penance prescribed by the Catholic Church have merit in the manner above indicated, outside of any particular religious significance. But to get back to our subject, this precept is not intended to preach asceticism. Occultism does not insist upon that. It does teach, however, that one should not allow himself to be tied to the pleasures and comforts of life to such an extent that he will cease to advance and develop his higher nature. Man may be ruined by too much luxury, and many cases are known where the higher influences at work under the law took away from a man those things which hindered his growth, and placed him in a position in which he was forced to live normally and thereby grow and unfold. Occultism preaches the simple life. It teaches that when a man has too many things, he is apt to let the things own him instead of his owning the things. He becomes a slave rather than a master. Kill out desire of comfort does not mean that one should sleep on rough boards as a special virtue pleasing to deity, or that one should eat dry crusts in the hopes of obtaining divine favor. Neither of these things will have any such effect. Deity may not be bribed, and is not specially pleased at the spectacle of one of his children making a fool of himself. But the precept does impress upon us that we should not be tied to any ideas of comfort, and that we should not imagine that true happiness can arise from any such cause. Enjoy the normal and rational pleasures of life, but always retain your mastery over them, and never allow them to run away with you. And always remember that true happiness comes from within, and that these luxuries and comforts are not necessities of the real man, and are merely things to be used for what they are worth. These creature comforts and luxuries are merely incidents of the physical plane, and do not touch the real self. The advanced man uses all these things as instruments, tools, or even toys if it is found necessary to join in the game life of others, but he always knows them for what they are and is never deceived. The idea that they are necessary for his happiness would seem absurd to him, and as a man advances spiritually, his tastes are apt to become simpler. He may like well-made things of good quality, best suited for their purpose, but he does not want so many of them, and ostentation and display become very foreign to his tastes and inclinations. He does not necessarily have to kill out the last mentioned tastes. They are very apt to leave him of themselves, finding his mental quarters not suited to their accommodation. Remember also that the fourth precept instructs you to be happy as those are who live for happiness. This does away with the long face and dreary atmosphere idea. It says, be happy, not make believe you are happy, as those who live for the so-called happiness coming from the things of the physical plane. That is the sane teaching. Be happy, So live that you may obtain a healthy, normal happiness out of every hour of your life. The occultist is not a miserable, sour-visaged, gloomy man, common beliefs to the contrary notwithstanding. His life and understanding lifts him above the worries and fears of the race, and his knowledge of his destiny is most inspiring. He is able to rise above the storm and, riding safely on the crest of the wave, yielding to every motion of the swell, he escapes being submerged. When things become too unpleasant to be borne on the relative plane, he simply rises into the higher regions of his mind, where all is serene and calm, and he gains a peace that will abide with him when he again sinks to meet the trials and burdens of the day.
Dear unknown friend, we will leave the remainder of the essay, Some Light on the Path, for next week's episode. In the meantime, please visit our website, where you will find links to all of our social media pages and other information. We will also truly appreciate your sharing of our videos with your friends. Leave a comment to tell us what you like, or to leave a suggestion for a topic that we should cover in a future episode. Interaction with our content will help us reach more people. Thank you, and namaste, the philosophers of the living fire.